What's good, y'all? I already know where y'all at. It's your boy Star Jones, and it's a new episode of Star Views. It's about to start right now. So please, I hope you got your hookah ready, and I hope you got your cups full of whatever ready, because I got a lot to talk about, alright? Know what's going on. Star Jones, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Please and thanks, you heard? What's good, folks? It's your man Star Jones. I'm back with another episode of Star Views. Feels like it's been a while since the last episode, but we're back, closing out the month of June proper. Tonight we will be talking about the latest installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, Fast 9. This is technically the 10th movie because Hobbs and Shaw was technically the 9th movie, and it is canon. It is in the universe, but not so much the Dominic Toretto focus and his crew's focus. But again, the 9th installment, Fast 9. So, as I mentioned in my reaction video to the trailer, I was definitely interested in finding out more about this Jacob character. Jacob being Dom's brother. So, with this newfound information of him having a brother, because I say newfound because none of us knew that, I went back and I binged the entire franchise and all the all the movies, just to see if there were any hints to Jacob's existence prior to this new film, this 9th film, Fast 9. Again, just to see if there was any mention of Jacob at any point. I got up to Fast 7. Unfortunately I didn't get to 8. The week went by quick, and before I knew it, it was time to go see Fast 9. So yeah. So we're gonna dive into all of that, talk about it, and see what exactly transpired in the film. Again, I did my homework. There was no reference to Jacob from the beginning. There were conversations about Dom and Mia's father. You know, not so much Jacob. Jacob didn't exist until now. So we're going to dive into, like I said, once I come back, we're going to dive into exactly what transpired. Again, with spoilers, there may be spoilers in this episode. I will be sure to let you guys know beforehand, so you have the option to continue watching, or you can spin back once you actually seen the film. So again, yeah. As always, I try to limit spoilers. I don't want to violate it for anybody. I don't want to ruin a movie for anyone. So I will try my damnedest not to, ruin anything for anyone. So I'll be back in a second. I am smoking hookah with you guys today, so you guys don't have to be upset at me. Spoke to someone yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they said it's crazy how I'll be leaving y'all hanging with the hookah without, smoking hookah. So it's on deck. I just got to put the coals on and we're good to go. So I'll be right back, all right? See y'all in a second. I told y'all, man, I'm going to smoke with y'all tonight. So, the movie immediately picks up. We see Dom and Letty living on what looks to be like a farm. Not the usual LA scene that we're used to seeing them living in, or some exotic country. It's definitely a change as far as scenery for at least Dom and Letty is concerned. Usually when we see the characters, they're usually in an exotic place living because they're on the run, or they're in their home city of LA, and Miami and Tokyo with those exceptions. But again, our main canon characters are usually in some exotic place or in the city of LA. So we see Dom and Letty, they're on what, like I said, what looks to be a farm, and we have Dom's son Brian. Rest in peace, Paul Walker. Rest in peace, Paul Walker. Definitely miss seeing him on the screen. But his son is named Brian, and we all know he's named after Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor. So we see them on the farm. They're having this happy life, or what looks to be happy, and immediately we see Roman, Tyrese, we see Tej, Ludacris, and we see Ramsey, Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones. We see them pull up, and they have this distressed message from Mr. Nobody. We was introduced to him in the 7th film. And pretty much he was in distress, and he was, under attack, and now they have this mission. Like, they wasted zero time getting into it. And then immediately they didn't really give us much backstory. It was just like, yo, he called in, gave us a distress call. Next thing you know, they're on a plane going to this country and they're trying to discover what happened. In this movie, they're like full-blown spies now. At this point, they're not just street racers who steal things from time to time. They are like full-blown spies. Because for me, watching, it was kind of like, why are they calling on them to go do these things? So that's just an example of how far this franchise has gone from street racing to full-blown spy shit. So in the video, Dom peeps this chain that resembles the crosses that he wears along with Letty. You know, the silver chain he wears like in every film. It's like his what's the word in the movie Inception. They had their identifiers. Yeah, like that chain, that cross is his identifier. Like anytime you see that chain, you know it has something to do with Dominic Toretto. So anyway, so he peeps the chain in the video, and he quickly realizes like that's the same chain I have, and so now questions pop up in his head. He has this look of like familiarity. So there we go. So the movie starts like that, and as maybe within the first 20 minutes, we're introduced to Jacob. This is not a spoiler. We see Jacob all in the trailers. John Cena plays him, and they pretty much make it known that this is Dom's brother. So this is not a spoiler. Boom. So they're in this country because I don't believe it's an island. I believe it's somewhere in Central America. But they're in this country trying to retrieve information on Mr. Nobody's death and what happened. And then Jacob pops up, wild goose chase, shit goes left, explosions everywhere, near-death experiences, because again, I don't want it to give you too much. And then we're reintroduced to Cypher. She was the villain in the 8th film, played by Charlize Theron. And pretty much the movie takes off from there. Like I said, they absolutely wasted no time. There was no build-up. It just goes straight into it. As the movie progresses, because Jacob is a major character in this film, they have to give him like a backstory. So we see a lot of the origin of, the come up. They also introduce Dom's father, Jack. So FYI, if you guys haven't seen or are caught up with the other Fast and Furious films, Mia and Brian's son's name is Jack. For the life of me, when I was rewatching everything, I was like, why would they name their son Jack? Like, you're Brian and she's Mia. Like, Jack? But Jack is their father's name. And you learn that in the film. That might be a tad bit of a spoiler. But we're introduced to his father, and we're also introduced to Jacob. We see Jacob back in the day. So, remember how they always referenced why Dom went to jail for beating a dude with the wrench? Yeah, we finally get to see that as well. We see what transpired and what led to that. And we actually see the death of his father. So, throughout the film, we see these flashback scenes to put things in perspective on the strained relationship between Dom and Jacob, and why their relationship is rocky and where it's currently at, at the present time in the film. As far as the time is concerned, I don't know how far after this film is, how much time has passed since the last film, which is 8. I don't mention Hobbs and Shaw only because Hobbs and Shaw is like an off thing. Like, they exist in the same universe, but they were doing their own thing in that film, and they don't really reference Dom in them. So I'm not using them in any time reference. But as far as the previous film, the 8th film, I don't really see how far since. So I really couldn't tell you how long after. But of course it's after, because again, we see Cypher. She was the main antagonist in that film, and she's back in this one. So pretty much the film is just a journey of Dom pretty much competing with his brother. A couple of other characters are brought back. Han comes back. That's also not a spoiler. You see him in the trailers. So that's not a spoiler. But they also do, I guess, fans some service by giving him an explanation on where he was. So pretty much, like I said, the film is just action-packed. Dom and his brother going at it, and us giving us a history lesson on where they came from. So that's pretty much the film. 2 hours and 25 minutes. So you'll definitely be in the theater for some time. With that said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you my rating. I'm going to let you guys know how I felt about the film and whether or not you guys should see it. Alright, so I'll be back in 2 seconds. Make sure y'all smoke y'all hookah with me. Alright, I'll see y'all in a minute. So, we're back, and this is y'all already know it's my favorite part of the show, because this is where I actually tell you guys what I like about the film, what I dislike about the film, and whether or not you should see it, and ultimately what I will rate it. For starters, before I get into that, as I mentioned in my reaction video, you know, there's a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions going into this film with Jacob's existence. Where was Hans this entire time? If he's alive, like what happened? Things like that. So I guess I'll start with the pros then. I do appreciate the fact that they gave us a clear explanation on Han's death. I use air quotes because, again, we thought he died, but ultimately his death was staged. I won't go in details because, again, I don't want to ruin it for you guys. I won't go in detail about how it was staged and what happened, but you know, they did a good job of explaining it somewhat. It still was a little discrepancies as far as the Hans and Deckard Shaw connection, because remember, we was under the impression that Deckard Shaw killed him, but you will see in the movie, because like I said, I don't want to violate, but they did give us something. They did give us fan service. Hashtag justice for Han. I think that was the movement for him to come back and to have an explanation for him on why he wasn't there, because Han is a beloved character from his days in Tokyo Drift, as well as his appearances in 4, 5, and 6. So he's definitely a beloved character. So they did him justice in that sense, giving him an explanation on where he was and what exactly happened to him. As far as Jacob's existence, I think they did a good job of explaining that a little bit. It's just still weird that, you know, we didn't hear about this guy until, you know, 15 years later. Not even. The first film came out in 2001. You're talking about, you know what I'm saying, 20 years later, we're learning about this man. So at the same time, I was happy about it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, bro, like, come on. He's been hidden this entire time. It's weird. But, you know, I guess in real life, people do have strange relationships with their siblings and their relatives, and things happen. So I guess that was realistic. So that was another pro. Another thing I liked about the film was that I'm big on loyalty. I'm big on family. I personally know my immediate family is not huge, and I love the fact that this film reminds you of how important family is. And again, you don't necessarily have to be blood related, but just having a close-knit group and, you know, looking out for each other is something I really appreciate about this film, especially after binging the entire franchise this past week. I love that about this film. You know, it pulls on the heartstrings a lot. Fast and Furious is good for pulling on the heartstrings. So, you know, I definitely love that, and I appreciate that about the franchise. And I think most people should love and appreciate that too, because it reminds you that how important family is. So that's something I do love about the film. Again, rest in peace, Paul Walker. They paid homage to Brian in the film, because again, they still reference him throughout the film. So that's cool, and I can appreciate that, you know, because I think for me going into these films, I'm kind of like, because after 7, I kind of wasn't thrilled with watching it anymore, because I was like, I feel like Brian O'Connor is just as important to the franchise as Dominic Toretto. You know what I'm saying? Like Mia says in I think she said in the 6th film, I would be more comfortable with y'all handling the mission together because y'all stronger together. And I think for the franchise, both characters make the franchise. I think they're equally as important. So, you know, I wasn't thrilled about seeing the movies going forward just because Brian wasn't present. And that's why I kind of walked into the 8th film and I was kind of like, I'm not excited because he's not around anymore. So, yeah. Now, with that said, they don't really explain, because that was something else I referenced in one of my questions after seeing the trailer was, how do they explain Mia coming back and not having Brian around? Because again, at the conclusion of the 7th film, Mia and Brian was retired. They're not living this life anymore. They now have, I think Mia was pregnant with a 2nd kid. Yeah, she's pregnant with a 2nd child at the conclusion of the 7th film. So, you know, they really made it a point that they were adamant about retiring from the life and they're not going to be around anymore. So yeah, Mia comes back because her brother is involved now, Jacob, but still, like, it was just like, you feel me, like, maybe have Mia on the phone or something. We didn't really need Mia around like that. And another gripe I had with the film, and again, y'all probably like start you nitpicking, but there was a scene where, you know, Brian was relegated to babysitting duties, and I just feel like Brian deserves more than just being the babysitter. Because there's a scene in the film where it's like, oh, Brian's watching the kids. And for me, that was like a letdown. Like, Brian's watching the kids? Like, so, but again, considering the reality that Paul Walker is no longer in existence, and I guess they didn't want to retcon the character or recast the character, they did that. But again, I personally didn't like that. And that's that. But speaking of Mia, also, another con I have with the film is everyone knows how to fight now. Like, it went from Dom knowing how to fight, Brian knowing how to fight, Hobbs and Shaw knowing how to fight, but now Tej could fight OD. Like, Roman, we know Roman could defend himself. But now Roman and Tej was out there fighting like a UFC fighter, like, and that's Ludacris's character for those who just aren't up on the names. You know, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Michelle Rodriguez-Letty she always threw down. In her first film, she had a mean right hook. She put the Asian boy to sleep in the first film. You know what I'm saying? So we already knew Letty knew how to shake. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like everybody knows how to fight. Like, Mia was throwing down with dudes in Tokyo. I'm like, what? Mia ain't never throw a punch in the whole series. She might have drove. Mia could handle the whip. She could drive. But we ain't never seen Mia fight. So for me, this is where the films are getting a little bit too crazy for me. Like, it's not believable. Dom, oh yeah, before I get to that, it's an age discrepancy. In the 6th film, when Letty comes back, on her tombstone, because again, remember, Letty also died. On her grave, it said she was born in 1983. So if we're in 2021, Letty would be 37 years old. Now, so, in the flashback when we're introduced to Dom's father, that was the year 1989. Dom looked like he was like 18, 19 years old. Because when he got convicted for the crime that he committed with the wrench, he went to adult jail. He was in big boy jail. That wasn't no juvenile detention. So, and I also going to reference something that Mia said in the first film, because Brian asked her, how did y'all crew come together? Like, how'd y'all come together? And then she mentions how Letty was always around, but Dom was never interested in her until she was like 16 years old. Said that verbatim. Like, when she turned 16, Dom was interested. So, if in 1989 Dom was like 18, 19 years old, Letty was only 6. So by the time she was 16, Dom was in his late 20s. So that's some creepola shit. So I think that's something they need to clean up, patch up, and I peeped that shit. That was kind of weird. I was like, what the you know what I'm saying? So That's sad. That was something else that I had an issue with. There is a cameo of a rapper in this film. Um, and as much as I love this entertainer, we could have dealt without said entertainer. I don't want to tell you who it is. There were actually, if you really was paying attention to all the hype going into this film, the release of this film, you would know who it is. But I'm not going to ruin it for y'all. But I just feel like, as much as I love said entertainer, they could have left them out. I just, you know, like it wasn't even like, oh shit. It was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that was that. What else did I have an issue with? Oh, the Tokyo Drift crew was in the film. Bow Wow. I call him Mike Winchell. I forget his real name. But he played Mike Winchell in Friday Night Lights, and the other little Asian kid that was in Tokyo Drift. They're like rocket scientists now. They fly spaceships, and they're trying to get cars into space. So for me, that was like, I went from drifting cars in Tokyo to somewhere in Germany trying to fly spaceships. I don't know. I think they just wanted to get them involved somehow, and they did that, and it was just like, that wasn't lit at all. Was it good to see them? Yeah, especially for the the fans of the franchise. Yeah, it was definitely good to see them, but yeah, what else we got going on? So that's pretty much my cons of the film and my pros. Fun fact, in one of the flashback scenes, they showed Nas, and I had to question I had that question. I remembered to ask that, and I looked it up. Nas is the boost that gives the cars that they use when they're racing. I was like, how long has Nas been around? But Nas has been around since the 60s. So, fun fact, in case you guys was wondering and was curious. Another little fun fact. John Cena is literally the little big brother, because there's a scene where they stand next to each other and John Cena is visibly bigger than Dom. Like, it's not even close. Like, Dom is big, but Jacob is, yeah. Oh yeah, another, I guess you could say, is a pro. I like the fact that, you know, these wrestlers are getting an opportunity. And I'm looking forward to maybe seeing John Cena on the screen with The Rock. I think Dwayne Johnson. I think that'd be cool. But all in all, with everything that I just said, I am going to give this movie a 6.5. 6.5. Crazy. You know what I'm saying? The whole going into space, that's left field. The fighting Dom, for a fact, is like, Dom is old. Let's keep it a band. Dom is like in his 40s. And he's still throwing people around like rag dolls and jumping, doing gravity-defying things, falling from wild high, and he don't break no bones. He don't be hurt up. It's just, it's getting a little crazy now. And I'm gonna use Bad Boys for Life as an example. The whole movie, they played on the fact that they were old, and that's what made it realistic, because Mike Lowry was getting his ass whooped, you know, by his son. You know, it was just like they're getting old, and Marcus was like, yo, I need to retire. I can't police anymore. I just can't do it. So I think it's at that point in the franchise where it's like things are no longer realistic and it's just not believable. And I think it's at the point where maybe they just need to call it a wrap and just end it. But yeah, 6.5 stars. If you're a fan of the franchise, absolutely do fan service and go see it. If you're not really missing out on anything. And again, this is 2.5 hours, so yeah. So with that said, that's my time. I will see you guys soon. July is going to be very busy. Very busy. So just stay tuned for that. And again, I appreciate y'all for stopping by, and I will see y'all on the other side. You heard? Look who decided to pop up. But that's my time. That's Bruce's time. I'm going to see y'all later. Oh, y'all still here? Appreciate y'all for sticking around, man. But I don't got no more hookah. But what I do have is more content on my YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't done so already, hit that red button and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notified as soon as I post anything. All right. And if you haven't already followed me on social media, here's my information. Make sure y'all follow up. Appreciate it. Y'all still here, man. That's valid. Have a good one.